mic levels.
Good
We're
afternoon.
going live without any mic level checks.
We are putting our faith in the higher powers.
We're going to get that out of the way right now. Just check the mic levels, making sure everything's
there we are. I see
kosher.
We are kosher. We are gluten-free. We are 100% inorganic. Yeah. Yeah, I heard your monitor. Yeah. All right. Very nice. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to start out with thanking our production crew, which we don't have any of. Thanks, Tim. And that's our production crew. And no, well, I mean, I'm talking about hands-on the show, dude. You know, our hands-on staff. I'd like to thank all our research people, which is Tim and me, the Yankee and me. Um, well, I'm glad you're. Well, this is very nice. This is a good. Now you see, the Yankees being nicer than the Canuck. This is a good trend. Maybe there is hope, ladies and gentlemen. This Canuck and Yankee show is probably going to be one of the most boring ones you'll ever watch, but that's because we're going to educate you. We are going to give you the facts. No, they don't. They like TikTok, sick talk, man. That's what they want. They want, yeah, like little animals crawling up by the fireplace and puking and shit stuff, you know. Okay, this is going to be education. We're going to give it to you. We're going to tell you like it is. Energy, big subject, big geopolitical dynamic, economic dynamic has effect on everybody. And to start with, I get to cover the traditional forms of energy. And as an op-ed, yeah, if you don't know the destruction that's been caused by coal extraction, oil extraction, natural gas, pipelines, and all the rest, you can look it up for yourself because it's true. All I'm going to do is tell you who's got what. So let's go. If you want, you can pull up that global energy monitor thing.
All right, let me do that. Let me see what I got here.
Maps. That's some nice maps in there. Actually, you could pull up the one that's down on the mines, Global Energy Monitor Projects,
I've got that up on the top, Global Energy Monitor. But there's a bunch of different sections in here.
Yeah, I just want to mention to all the viewers out there, if you go to the Global Energy Monitor, that's the links to all kinds of different monitors. And the one Yankee's going to get up right now has to do with coal. So we're going to start out with production of coal, like who's producing coal, who's taking coal and like making coal into coal, not just in the ground. And China is winning right now, and this is measured in metric tons. A metric ton is 1,000 kilograms or 2,204.6 pounds. So China is producing, mining, taking out of the earth 3,692 metric tons. India comes in second at way down there at 745. The United States is still mining coal at the rate of 640 metric tons. Indonesia is right behind, 585. Australia's about the same. Russia's about the same. Drops down to South Africa, Germany, way down to Kazakhstan, 117, Poland. And then all the rest are quite small as far as coal imprints. And on the monitor thing there, yeah, you see that's all the different monitor things. Like if you clicked on the one that said for the coal mines, so you see all the coal mines. And
this is coal plant. Hold on a sec. Here we go. Here's the global coal mine tracker.
Yeah, that was the one. I don't know if you can get that up there just somewhere fairly quick. I don't know if it's a direct link, but
data dashboard. Well, this is proposed.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, I'm going to keep moving on here. Now, who has got the most coal stashed? Right? All right. China's mining a lot, but the United States is sitting on 22.3% of all the coal in the world. Russia has 15.5%. Australia has 14%. China has 13.1%. So they've only got 13.1%, but they're mining it very quickly, as you noted from the first statistic I gave you. India has just under 10%, and that's the total world total in just those few countries is 74.4% right there. So they got 3/4 of the oil, coal, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in 5 countries, and then all the rest have very little, 3.5% or less. Now, who's using the coal? As well, as you probably know. I don't know if you can find Worldometers info coal. It's in the show links, Tim.
Which one is this?
Well, it's in the show links, and it's the world coal consumption. It's the third from the last, the fourth down. Anyway,
there's coal plant tracker, coal power plants, coal consumption by country.
Coal consumption by country. Yes, we're already
there
up
it
to
is.
that.
I got it loaded up.
All right, congratulations. All right, ladies and gentlemen.
China, of course, leads the way. Not surprised by that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a basic. It's something. Some huge friggin' number here, like 4 billion.
4.3 million. No, 4.3 billion.
Trillion. Million.
Wait, no, yeah, that is trillion. 4.3 trillion MMCF.
Yeah, it means 1 million cubic feet. Under prescribed principle,
that's 50% of the world's share, right there in one country, China.
Yeah.
China.
India, United States, all things in total world use of consumption. So United States is still consuming quite a bit. And India and China and the United States are the three that are using the most. And all the other countries were then 3% or less of the world's share. And then we got coal generation.
I'm surprised by Russia, only 2.7%.
Yeah, they don't use much coal. China obviously kills it with 4 times more than India and 6 or 7 times more than the United States in coal use. And they say that they're all going green and everything. I don't know about that. Okay, well, you got coal generators. You got to make something that can't just use coal. I mean, they don't burn it just in the stoves. They make electricity, right? And since 2000, there's a Global Energy Project's Global Coal Plant Tracker, if you can find. That's the last under coal.
Global Plant Tracker. There it is. Coal Plant Tracker.
Yeah. It says here, since 2000, the world has doubled its coal-fired power capacity to around 2,045 gigawatts. After explosive growth in China and India, a further 200 gigawatts is being built and 300 gigawatts is planned. So coal is obviously not dead at all. It's totally happening.
Well, I've got the spreadsheet loaded. It's a Google Sheet spreadsheet up on the stream right now, and wow, China's numbers are just beyond any other countries. Kind of hard to see in the stream because the numbers are a little bit small, but so China, this is from 2000 all the way up to the current year, 2021. And these are new coal plants by country.
They are building them.
And from 2000 up to the current year, they had 17,000 back in 2000. In 2010, 64,000 new coal plants In 2018, 33,000. 2019, 48,000. They're not slowing down. Well, a little bit here. 2020, they had 41,000 coal plants. This year, so far, the year is over. I don't know how accurate this number is, but 7,747. So,
well,
a little bit of a reduction this year, and that's the only year out of the years mapped here where they've slowed down.
Yeah,
so
well, there you go.
Maybe they're starting to do it. Maybe they're starting to really pull back. We'll have to see.
I doubt it. And of course, it's way to go, China. They got the great PR department. They're always talking about all the green things they're doing. They never mention all these coal plants that they're building. So I think we'll move on to oil now.
Just one interesting note here. If you come down to the United States, new coal plants were coming online between 2000 and 2015.
Yeah.
And 2014, there was only 106 new coal plants in the U.S. In 2015, there were only 50, and that was it. From 2016 to 2021, the United States has not put any new coal plants online.
It's over.
So, United States is we are not adding more coal.
Yeah, and you got to remember, it's not just the whole world that gets polluted by these things. It's the neighborhood right next to them with the sulfur gases. Back in the day, coal was burned. I even remember I lived in Paris, just outside of Paris, France, when I was a kid, in a little town called Le Vaisonnet. We had a coal stove in the basement. When I lived in Amsterdam on a boat, we had a coal stove. We just throw coal in there, and it would leak out a really very noxious gas. So, like the majority of coal now is burned. A lot of it's used for making steel, and then electricity, and of course some is still burnt for thermal. And then the new kid on the block, of course, is oil. And I've got this little quick list here of who's got the oil, and I'm not sure, Yankee. I'm sure everybody is really scratching their heads as to why the number one country has more oil than Saudi Arabia is so broke. Venezuela.
Yeah, there it is right there. Number one, Venezuela with 300 billion oil reserve barrels. 300 billion.
303.2 billion barrels, 17.9% of the world's total oil is in Venezuela. Their inflation is something like 4,000% a year, and they got anarchy, and I don't understand. And their daily oil production, at least in 2017, was 2.1 million barrels. But Saudi Arabia was putting out 6 or 7 times that. Saudi Arabia is number 2, and they got 266.2 billion barrels of oil, 15.7%, and they're just behind. They obviously know what to do with it. And my stats is because GDP per capita not available. That's because I don't think they have an economy that you can actually gauge in Venezuela. GDP per capita in Saudi Arabia is 53,000. That's pretty good for an Arabian country.
Yeah, but the Canuck is number 3. I don't think a lot of people realize this. 169.7 billion in oil reserves in Canuck land in Canada.
Yeah.
Number 3 in the world.
Yeah, but there is a little adjoinder to that. It's mostly in what we call tar sands. It's embedded in all this sand in Alberta. It's difficult to extract. It's low-grade oil, but it is there. I mean, it is there. And we're putting out 4.8 million barrels daily oil production. That's pretty good. We're producing it. We've gone up. 5-year oil production change is up close to 30%. And that's pretty good. Of course, the tar sands, it's a bit debated as to what they're doing as far as tearing up the Athabasca region of Alberta. but it's the big wazoo here. Okay, after Canada, after Canada, we have Iran, and they've got 9.3%, just behind Canada. Another family favorite, Iraq, they got 8.8. So 8.8%. Maybe we should invade them. Wait, we already did. Okay. The Russian Federation. Vladimir.
Number 8 with 80 billion. Wow.
Well, I've got him as number 6 in my stats anyway. Proven oil reserves. Now, my stats are a little bit old, 2017. But it's pretty close. Then we got Kuwait, and they're just behind the Russian Federation, and then the UAE. The thing about the UAE, 5.8%. There isn't very many people in the United Arab Emirates, so their per capita share is 74,000. So, they get a lot of bang for the buck. And ladies and gentlemen, coming in at number 9. In proven oil reserves, the United States of America with 2.9% of the world's total.
I see. You're going off the USA Today list.
Yeah, the USA Today list.
We have an abundance of links in our show notes. We've got the USA Today ranking, and then we also have visualcapitalist.com, which has its own rankings, which are slightly different from USA Today, but.
Yeah, they're probably a bit more updated.
And so, United States, according to USA Today, is ranked number 9, and they list it as 50 billion in oil reserves. Visual Capitalist lists the United States with only 36.5 billion. Now,
USA had them at 50 billion as well.
Biden's got you got to take some out of that reserve because Biden is freaking out. Because he thinks, which it will, gas is going to shoot up, oil is going to shoot up over $120, $150 probably next year. Yeah, next year.
Yes, but
and he's cutting he's taking oil out of U.S. oil reserves to try to bring more oil onto the market.
You're not quite right. The strategic reserve is refined oil. This statistic is oil that's in the ground. It's not. You can't use it yet.
Right, I'm just saying that he's taking, with gas prices going up, he's taking out of the whatever our emergency stockpile or whatever. Which I'm not sure how much that is, but.
Well, if you're hungry, go to the kitchen, get some cookies. All right, we're gonna keep moving on. Whatever. You guys got your own friggin' problems. At least you got a stash.
We got to start fracking again. We got to start fracking and creating earthquakes, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, frack this.
Just start fracking again.
Yeah, I can tell you where to frack. Go frack yourself. All right. We're not going to get. We're trying to be objective. We're trying to be like Hollywood. University professors here. Just the facts. All right. Production. Who's producing the most? Well, in other words, you got the oil, but who's making the good stuff that the Yankees is talking about?
The primo stuff that everybody wants?
The good stuff, man. Yeah. All right, who's doing it? Who's number 1? Who's number 1 in making oil into gasoline and crude oil and other petroleum liquids? Ladies and gentlemen, the United States of America is killing 20% of the world's refining capacity is going in the United States with 18.6 million barrels a day. Way to go. Saudi Arabia's number 2. Way back there
so
at 11%.
The United States is number 1 in manufacturing primo oil.
You got it, baby. The good stuff, you can put it in your tank, fire it up, go cruise down the street, man.
You could put it on your salad.
USA all the way. All right, USA, Saudi Arabia is second, tied with Russia, both at 11%. And then we've got Canada. We're producing 6% of all the refined stuff in the world. China, we're ahead of China. All right. 5%. Iraq, 4%. Brazil, UAE, and a bunch of the other stuff. It's refinery. And now, who's using this stuff? That's the most important thing. And once again, the United States of America wins the award for using the most crude oil and other petroleum liquids and biofuels. Ladies and gentlemen, number one, the United States of America at 20.51 million barrels per day consumption per day. That's
Is
21%.
this on the oil fact? Where are you getting this? Is there a link I can load up?
Yeah, it's off of EIA government tools.
The fact. What countries are the top producers of consumers? United States. United States consumes 18.6 million barrels per day.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia and Russia somewhat behind them at 10 million each per day.
They're soaking it up. And of course, it doesn't break down to per capita, which is interesting because if you took Canada, for example, in consumption, now if we're at 6%, but Canada's 1/10 the size of the population of the States. So if we were the same size and consumed per capita in the same rate, we'd be killing it, man. We'd be way over consuming. So these statistics, they don't account, and I didn't have a chance to translate into per capita. But yeah, basically, United States, consumption. All right, we're back to consumption. Sorry, I got confused. Consumption, United States is number one. China's number two at 14%. China's got a huger population. That's going back. India is at 5%, but it's got a really huge population too. Japan, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Brazil, South Korea, Canada's way down there. But once again, like if you factored in population difference, Canada would be on about the same par per capita as the United States, and then Germany, and that's it.
Well, those are pretty big numbers. United States, 330 million people, top consumer with 20 million barrels per day. China, population 1.4 billion with 14 million.
Yeah,
consumed
about 5
daily.
times. I would say off the top of my head, sounds like 5 or 6 times more per capita consumption in the United States than in China, which makes sense because, guys got cars and all kinds of things to burn it in. And those guys still have rickshaws and stuff like that, right? Oxen. No, they got cars.
No, China's got their bullet trains. They're actually in debt for it. They've already built a massive high-speed rail system connecting all the major cities in China.
Yeah, but that's not oil. That's
I'm just saying it's you don't have that in the U.S. I mean, in the U.S. it's always been
cars.
Especially cities like Los Angeles, it's always been cars. And they've never, the U.S. has never built up its rail system. It's
LA, if you walk down, check it out, man. If you walk down Sunset Boulevard, and you'll see there's these places where it's been filled in with concrete. There used to be a subway system in LA way back, and they filled it in because they wanted cars instead of
they do have 1 or 2 subway lines now that are new.
I'm just saying they had it and then they got rid of it.
Yeah, I know. Well, they brought back some small subway lines, but I don't think there's any plans to create an extensive network in Los Angeles, which is really needed. But
totally,
it's they do have something. They do have some subway lines, train lines.
Let me get this conventional stuff wrapped up because this is taking way too long. I'm just going to burn through it. All right, no pun intended.
Crash and burn. Go ahead.
All right, natural gas is the next traditional one. We've got the reserves. Who's got the most? Russia's got the most natural gas. They're sitting on 28 billion cubic meters. Iran has 33 billion. Qatar has 24 billion. The United States is sitting on 15 billion. Saudi Arabia has 9, and it goes down from there. And China has about 5 billion. Now, Canada only has about 1% of the world's total natural gas reserves, and for some stupid reason, government of British Columbia wants to build a pipeline. They're building it through unceded Indian territory. Unceded means the Indians never gave it up to the government. We do that up here. And for this natural gas, we only got 1% of it. Nobody wants it anyway. Anyway, that's an op-ed. All right, consumption. Who's using natural gas? Once again, the United States tops. Russia uses quite a bit. China uses some. It goes down. Canada, we use a bunch. Once again, proportionate Canada to the United States, we'd be killing it. The last thing is hydro. A little quick note on hydro. Hydro is renewable. This is me. Hydro is a renewable source of energy, but it also has a devastating impact on natural habitat and human cultures when valleys are dammed up. I mentioned the Site C Dam, which is being built here in British Columbia, which is wiping out historical archaeology in the last agricultural area in the north. Right near me, there's a place called the Arrow Lakes on the Columbia River that wiped out a major agricultural area here in British Columbia, and it turns out they didn't even really need to do it. They don't make any hydro out of it anyway. But hydro is really coming on. Once you get it built, it's kind of nifty as long as there's water. And that's one of the reasons Venezuela's in trouble. They built a big hydro dam, but they didn't factor in that there wasn't enough water to fill it. Okay, so who makes the most power? China, number one. They are producing 356 gigawatts of power. Brazil's number two. United States is number three. Canada's number four, 81. United States we're just behind the United States. Most of the hydro is in Canada is either in British Columbia or in northern Quebec. India makes quite a bit, 50 gigawatts. Japan's making about 50 gigawatts. Russia is making about 50 gigawatts. And Norway and Turkey and France draw it up. And I pretty much all this, that it's no pun intended, but it's pretty much tapped out for hydroelectric development. All the rivers in the United States that can be used pretty much are. Same here in Canada. And there's even a movement to try to eliminate some of the dams so that the salmon.
Well, also out west, California, Arizona, Utah, there's less water. There's a drought's been going on for so long, and there's the Hoover Dams out there. There's some hydropower out there, and it's being affected by the ongoing droughts.
It certainly is, and that's the wrap up. Sorry, folks, it took a little longer than I wanted it to, but that's all the kinds of energy that we're using currently, and basically, well, hydro's good. But the rest of them basically aren't that good, and we really should be phasing out of it. And we'll be phasing into the brave new world that the Yankees going to tell us about, and the light at the end of the tunnel.
Are we gonna go over the miracle energy source, or
not until I'm saving
you
that?
You want to save that for the end? Wow,
that's dessert.
Save the best for the last here. All right. Well, we're gonna switch over to green. All things green.
Now,
start out with geothermal energy.
This is the good stuff, folks.
And
the stuff I was talking about is old school. I mean, hydro is what it is. But like I say, even some of the hydro dams should be taken down. They're not that efficient. And they're killing all the fish. But, in general, they're there. They're going to work, but it's over. We can't get any more. But oil, and definitely coal. Coal's just got to go away. I'm actually quite surprised, you probably are too, that the amount of coal plants that China's building, because they never advertise that. They advertise their solar and their wind, but they never say, oh, by the way, we're building tens of thousands of coal plants. It's like, anyway, take it on, Yankee.
Yeah, so we're going to start out with geothermal. And from EIA.gov again, geothermal explained use of geothermal energy. Some applications of geothermal energy use the Earth's temperature near the surface, while others require drilling miles into the Earth. There are three main types of geothermal energy systems: direct use and district heating systems, geothermal power plants, and geothermal heat pumps. So you could have, like some kind of geothermal power plant where somewhere in the United States where there's a lot of thermal energy coming up from the Earth's core,
Right.
and you could then distribute that to many homes and businesses. Direct use and district heating systems. Direct use and district heating systems use hot water from springs or reservoirs located near the surface of the Earth. Ancient Rome, Chinese, and Native American cultures use mineral springs for bathing, cooking, and heating. Today, many hot springs are still used for bathing, and many people believe the hot, mineral-rich waters have health benefits. There's also geothermal electricity generation. Geothermal electricity generation requires water or steam at high temperatures, 300 to 700 degrees Fahrenheit. Geothermal power plants are generally built where geothermal reserves are located within a mile or two of the Earth's surface. So here's the state rankings for geothermal electricity generation 2020. California's number 1, Nevada number 2, Utah number 3, Oregon number 5, Idaho 6, and New Mexico 7. And Hawaii is number 4.
Right on.
So those are the main the top 7 there for geothermal.
Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? I just take heat out of the earth, which is really hot down there, right? So
the United States leads the world in the amount of geothermal electricity generation. In 2022,
Yay!
there were
Go
geothermal power
USA!
plants in these 7 states I just mentioned, which produced about 17 billion kilowatt hours, but that's only equal to 0.4% of total U.S. utility scale electricity generation. So
it adds up.
ways to go, but
It adds up.
it's a matter of getting all these different alternative energy sources on the grid and upgrading the grid to make it more efficient, make everything more efficient.
Yeah.
The whole grid
Yeah.
system's got to be revamped.
Yeah, I'll bring up something really quick here. My dad worked for the United States federal government as a public relations person. He was working for the Atomic Energy Commission. Then he got transferred in the early 70s to a new department called the Energy Research and Development Agency, ERDA. And they were going to do exactly what they're doing now. They were going to look into alternative sources of energy. It was during the oil crisis, the early 70s, and all kinds of nifty stuff like that. And he eventually quit after decades of service with the government because he was so frustrated because there was no policy. There was nothing behind. In other words, they created ERDA, and then they just didn't do anything with it. Now, can you imagine if they'd done something with it and they eventually just got rid of it? Anyway, that's just an aside. But at least, 50 years later, we're getting back to it. So what else we got?
So I got a quick video. Geothermal Energy Tech. This is from RenewableEnergyWorld.com. And let's see. Just basic 2-minute video on geothermal energy tech.
We all want to save money heating and cooling our house or office, right? The answer may be under your feet, literally. Much of the heating and cooling can come from the ground, below the surface, with something called a geothermal heat pump. You see, below the frost line, about 10 feet down, the Earth maintains a nearly constant temperature of 54 degrees. We can tap into this energy to provide heating in the winter and cooling in the summer. Okay, now here's how it works. Bury a loop of pipes, called a heat exchanger, just below the surface, and fill them with water or a water and antifreeze solution. During the winter months, the air is usually cooler than the temperature below ground. The solution circulates in a loop underground and absorbs the Earth's heat. This heat is brought to the surface and transferred to a heat pump. The heat pump warms the air, and then your regular heating system warms the air some more to a comfortable temperature. Finally, ducts circulate the air to the various rooms. Now, a huge benefit is that the geothermal system doesn't have to work as hard to make people inside comfortably warm, and you save lots of money on your heating bill. In the summertime, the system works in reverse. When it's hot outside, the temperature below the surface is cooler than the summer heat. So, the fluid in the loop absorbs heat in the building and sends it underground. The ground's lower temperature cools it, and it's circulated again and again. Now you're saving money on air conditioning. Now, this church uses a large geothermal heat pump to heat and cool the building. It has a very big parking lot, which lets it spread out its loop horizontally. But if you don't have all that space, you can go straight down and use a vertical loop system instead. Geothermal heat pumps can be used just about anywhere in the US because all areas have nearly constant shallow ground temperatures, although systems in different locations will have varying degrees of efficiency and cost savings. The constant temperature of the Earth just below our feet is a sustainable resource, literally in our own backyard. It's a clean energy source ready for us to use, to heat and cool our homes and buildings while lowering our utility bills.
And that's it. But that was a nice video. Explained it well.
Yeah, I like that.
You could use that in most places in the U.S. and around the world. As a supplement. You could have the geothermal aspect, take advantage of cooling in the summer, warming in the winter, and then you could also have solar panels, what have you. There's a lot of things you can combine.
It should be a standard thing in new house construction. They should
that makes perfect sense.
It's just the standard thing. It's not that expensive. It doesn't look like you just dig a hole in the ground, some pipe, couldn't be more than a few $1,000s. And boom. That's one of the things, and all these wonderful ideas, but they have to be implemented. But that was a good one. I like that. If I build a new house, I'll definitely do that.
So we're going back to EIA.gov and moving on to biomass, which is basically taking renewable organic material that comes from plants and animals. Biomass is the largest source of total annual U.S. energy consumption until the mid-1800s. Biomass continues to be an important fuel in many countries, especially for cooking and heating in developing countries. Mm-hmm. Use of biomass fuels for transportation and for electricity generation is increasing in many developed countries as a means of avoiding carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuel. Biomass sources for energy include wood and wood processing waste, firewood, wood pellets and wood chips, lumber and furniture mills, sawdust and waste, and black liquor from pulp and paper mills. Agricultural crops and waste material, corn, soybeans, sugarcane, switchgrass, woody plants, algae, and crop and food processing residues. Biogenic materials and municipal solid waste, paper, cotton, and wool products, and food, yard, and wood waste. And animal manure and human sewage.
Yep.
You could be recycling all this and getting energy out of it.
Yeah, you mentioned the use of this back into the actually it goes back into ancient history. When I was in India, in the villages, they used dried dung to cook with and probably even heat with. So it's like direct use of biofuel right there, and efficient.
And direct combustion is the most common method for converting biomass to useful energy. There's also thermochemical conversion to produce solid, gaseous, and liquid fuels, chemical conversion to produce liquid fuels, biological conversion to produce liquid and gaseous fuels. And just taking a look at how much biomass is used for energy in 2020, biomass provided about 4,532 trillion British thermal units, or about 4.5 quadrillion BTU, and equal to about 4.9% of total U.S. primary energy consumption. Of that amount, about 2,101 TBTU were from wood and wood-derived biomass.
Wow.
But it's a significant amount. Not massive, but,
okay. It adds up. I mean, you're talking about 5, 6, 7 different kinds of things, and plus they're all in their infancy pretty much, as far as use or potential use goes. Especially, you got the combination of biofuels and all the garbage. I mean, there's so much friggin' garbage, especially in the larger cities like Los Angeles and stuff like that. And trying to do something with it would be really kind of nifty. Of course, when you combust it, you got to be careful because you can be polluting right then too. So it's tricky.
But that's pretty much it. There's one other article here lists the main types: agricultural residues, animal waste, industrial waste, forest residues, solid waste, and sewage. And moving on, we're gonna do tidal energy. So harnessing all that wave motion, right? You got the moon, it's gravity and all that, moving the ocean's tidal waves in and out, and they are harnessing that. Tidal energy is
one of the best things about that is that they can predict the tides actually hundreds of years out. I mean, they know exactly when the tides are going to be, how big they are, more or less. So it's not like solar and wind when they don't really know what they're going to get. So, and it does lend itself to different areas better than others. So go ahead.
Tidal energy is a renewable energy powered by the natural rise and fall of ocean tides and currents. Some of these technologies include turbines and paddles. A vortex or a whirlpool of water whirls from the sea into a turbine of the Barrage de la Rance electric power generating station in Brittany, France. Tidal energy is a renewable source of energy created by the predictable and powerful movement of tides as they move to and from the shoreline. Tidal power plant. The Rance Tidal Power Station bridges the Rance River in Brittany, France. A power plant which was built by Electricité de France usurps tides coming from the Gulf of St. Malo on the Atlantic Ocean to turn its 24 turbines. Generators work with a combination of tidal power and propeller-driven turbine engines.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty neat. I think they're building one in Canada, or else they built it in Bay of Fundy, because it's this big, long bay that goes in, then it comes right back out again. But yeah, I mean, that's totally cool. And that's super free.
I mean, this is not as efficient as some other energy sources out there, but you know, you need to have a variety.
I would think it would be good, especially if they could get it scaled right, because we got a lot of rural communities here in Canada that are up along the coast that really have trouble getting electricity. If they could, you know, get plants into their places just for local energy, you know, it doesn't have to be anything really just big deal or anything, but it beats trying to get natural gas and stuff like that into these communities so they can get electricity. But like I say, it has to, the shoreline has to be suited to that. You pretty much have to have some kind of an inlet that you can capture the water coming in and out. From what I understand, although I think they are working on ones that just float.
So we're gonna go over solar. I'm actually gonna let me get this other one up, and we're gonna look more at battery innovations with solar. So solar power obviously has been around for a while, but the battery mechanism is coming onto the scene and helping store all that energy collected from the solar panels. And so there's a lot of innovations in renewable energies and battery storage. One of the biggest obstacles we face in making the transition to clean energy sources is storage.
Yeah.
Harnessing the power of renewable energy sources is one thing, but it's quite another to store that energy away for long periods. Fortunately, researchers around the world are hard at work to make renewable energy and battery storage a reality. Harnessing power of the sun. Off-grid communities are leading the fight against renewable energy waste out of necessity. From Hawaii to Martinique, battery projects have managed to store enough energy to smooth over any grid hiccups. Powering community needs using 100% renewable energy. If progress continues at the current rate, energy storage deployment in emerging markets is expected to increase by over 40% each year until 2025. Wow. So that's major growth in battery storage.
Yeah, no doubt.
Tech.
And I think Australia also had a big Tesla bank, and they had a power outage and thing just kicked in. There was like no interruption whatsoever. And of course, as most people know, with wind and solar in particular, since they're intermittent, obviously you don't get solar at night. So there has to be storage. But I know that there's a number of companies working independently, trying to come up with better solutions. Tesla, of course.
Yeah, and this is from this article from Euroscientist.com. Stay ahead of the curve. Companies like Tesla, in part through mergers with existing solar companies, are attempting to innovate solar panels and batteries to permit greater capture and storage of power. Could solar power battery storage be an infinite resource? Let me just check out. This is the link to that. An infinite resource. Could solar power and battery storage offer real-world solutions for our increasing energy needs? So interesting concept, and this is as far as solar power is concerned. The battery storage part of it is what's to watch. That's what you should be watching.
Oh, definitely.
And then
I mean,
next
that's
5
a big
to 20
one.
years.
It's a big one.
So it could be possible that the battery storage tech gets so efficient that for certain communities that set it up right, it's
and for private people too. Like I'd like to put
everywhere.
in solar. I'd like to put in solar. I mean, the cost of the panels is one thing, but it's the cost of the batteries, and you scale your batteries up for how much do you want to be able to store? If you want to be able to store a lot, it's that much more expensive. So obviously solar panels will come down in price, but batteries are still fairly expensive, and they're still developing different techniques. A lot for RVs and stuff, they're still recommending going with the old school deep cell batteries over the lithium, just because they're more reliable under different conditions. But yeah, there's a bunch of different things coming on, some pretty sophisticated. And I think there's some out of the box thinking too, of storing electricity in the ground or something crazy like that. I can't remember what it was, but you never know. But wind ties into the same thing with batteries. It's dependent very much on battery storage, because the wind isn't constant.
Wow, why is all this code in this article? That's weird.
Oh, it's probably Pandora or whoever that is. Is it Pandora? No, not Pandora. It's the other guys. Pegasus.
Yeah, Pegasus is hacking this website.
I get my Pandora papers and my Pegasus syndrome confused sometimes. I don't know who's after me. Well, I'm definitely not Pandora. They're only after people with money. Pandora papers, by the way, is a subject that we covered on the Canuck and Yankee show. It's a list of malfeasance on the part of big-time people who stash their money and don't pay taxes. And just as a side note, as a filler, well, the Yankee figures out what the code is going on here.
So this is from, what is this? The Ori TheoremGeo.com. So with the cost of solar equipment being driven down, one of the last remaining obstacles to widespread use of solar energy is the intermittency of power. Solar power can go from 90% generation to less than 5% with the passing of a singular large cloud, putting the electrical supply and demand equilibrium completely out of sync. The solution for solar and other types of intermittent power is to level out this equation. And the best approach thus far is energy storage systems. Energy storage systems would help to smooth out the peaks and valleys of the intermittent generation by storing excess energy and discharging it when needed. The issue with this has been the inhibitive cost of large-scale use or large-capacity batteries compounded by their limited lifespan. According to the DOE, a new promising battery design could address these limitations, which in turn would give hope to finally see mainstream adoption of PV at international level, both residential consumers and utilities. So major advancements on the battery side. So I think it's I think it has a real possibility of solving the issue.
Oh yeah, and I think it's going to happen.
Intermittency with solar power.
And it's going to probably happen because there's money. There's money to be made, which means private industry wants it to happen. So they're putting money in, because if they can get it, then they can make money.
So I've got one more green energy source, and that is wind. And the future of wind power. I'm just going to go over 9 cool innovations from treehugger.com. Are there any tree huggers out there? Anybody out there got some
Well,
chains? Have you ever
yeah,
chained yourself to a tree
hey, we're in British
somewhere in the
Columbia.
Northwest or something?
Hey,
You got any tree huggers out there?
I could round up a posse of probably 600 to 800 tree huggers, and within an hour, I could have them. So, what do you need? Need tree?
Yeah, yeah.
I live in the
Give the
Coonings,
call,
British Columbia, dude.
You know, blow the horn, and yeah, let's get the tree huggers all together.
Look at the posse. It'd be like the tree hugger posse, dude. No, in the new year, actually, we are going to cover the old growth situation here in British Columbia. But what tree huggers? Oh, tree hugger. Oh, it's treehugger.com.
This is from treehugger.com.
Oh, okay, I
Calling
see.
all tree huggers. But anyway, this is wind innovations in wind power airborne wind turbines. The Makani airborne wind turbine can access stronger and more consistent wind at altitudes near 1,000 feet, which means that 85% of the U.S. could have viable wind resourcing using the device compared to just 15% using current turbine technology. Now, from what I've heard about wind, it's very costly to get these wind turbines built. A lot of people think they're ugly, so they don't want them in their neighborhood. But and then
they cause cancer too.
They do?
Yeah, the president of the United States said that. Go on.
Anyway, they're expensive to maintain. You know, you gotta they break down. They're massive. You gotta, you know, they're not easy to maintain, and it seems like so far they haven't been implemented that well. But it's got the tech has to keep advancing. You can't just give up.
Yeah, and it really goes down to location. Like they built a big wind farm on the Columbia. They call it the. It's in Washington State, and it's like the Gorge. There's a big concert venue there called the Gorge. Actually, it's quite nice. But they built them up on this hill, and it's really windy, and it's super steady. So that was a real success story. But sometimes they build them, and there just really isn't enough consistent wind to make them viable.
Well, this Altaris device uses a helium-filled inflatable shell to enable it to ascend to high altitudes, which gives it access to stronger and more consistent winds than tower-mounted turbines.
That makes sense, yeah.
And the generated power is sent to the ground via tethers. The next innovation is power from low-speed winds. Wind harvester. The new wind harvester is based on a reciprocating motion that uses horizontal aerofoils similar to those used on airplanes. It is virtually noise-free and can generate electricity at a low speed, which may result in less opposition to new installations. Then there's bladeless wind power. Windstock. Within each hollow pole is a stack of piezoelectric ceramic discs. Wow. Between the ceramic discs are electrodes. Every other electrode is connected to each other by a cable that reaches from top to bottom of each pole.
Wow, that's hip.
One cable connects the even electrodes, and another cable connects the odd. When the wind sways the poles, the stack of piezoelectric discs is forced into compression, thus generating a current through the electrodes.
Wow,
and there's
that's kind of cool.
wind turbine lenses. Wind lens, Japanese researchers say that they discovered a simple way to make wind turbines up to 3 times as efficient by placing a wind lens around the turbine blades. They claim that wind power could become cheaper than nuclear. Wow, that's a big claim right there.
Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
And then there's vertical axis turbines. Got a big picture there of that.
Oh, wow.
Windspire, the standard Windspire is 30 feet tall and 40 feet wide.
I like that one.
Designed to come in under the typical 35-foot height restrictions of local municipalities due to the vertical axis design. Sound levels were tested at 6 decibels above ambient, rendering it virtually inaudible. And the 1.2 kilowatt Windspire installed at the Beekman Farm will produce approximately 2,000 kilowatt hours per year and 11 mile per hour average wind.
That's decent, yeah.
Here's the eddy turbine. It's more of a traditional one that you see. And now there's also number 6, quiet wind turbines. Eco Whisper turbine, want wind power, but think that those tri-bladed behemoths are just too loud. Well, Australian Renewable Energy Solutions is just a thing for you. Eco Whisper wind turbine. Sharp-looking little contraption may only have 20 kilowatt generating capacity, but the company claims that the turbine is virtually silent. Number 7 is wind power storage. Getting back to that issue with all energy sources, especially Alternative energies is how to store all that power you're gathering. The man-made island wind battery concept. The Green Power Island makes use of pumped hydro, a storage strategy that's already in wide use. Conventional pumped hydro systems use vertical separated reservoirs to utilize the power of water and gravity during times of low demand. Off-peak, water is pumped using excess energy from the lower to upper reservoir. As demand increases, the water is allowed to flow downhill into the lower reservoir, generating electricity in the process. Number 8, community-owned wind power. Built in 1996, the wind farm was the first community-owned wind installation in the UK and generates around 10,000 megawatt of electricity each year, enough to power around 30,000 homes. Number 9, multi-purpose offshore wind turbines. Dutch company Ecofis is leading a project that, if the whole crazy scheme pans out, would turn offshore wind farms into actual farms. The company thinks seaweed might be cultivated around offshore wind turbines and harvested for the production of fish and animal feed, biofuels, and energy.
Nice.
Wind technology is leaping ahead
Now you're
all the
talking.
time, and while some of these innovations are just concepts at the moment, others are either in prototype or testing phases and could enter the energy market in the near future. So yeah, you got to keep innovating
Wow, that's incredible.
It gets efficient enough. And as always, Ed, got to solve the battery storage, the storage option for all this power that we're collecting.
That's the big donut.
Thing.
But yeah, I mean, it's incredible. And what I find fascinating, there's so many different entities working on so many different things. And one would hope that they're communicating with each other, which I imagine they are to a certain extent, but also being private enterprises, they probably want to keep some of their secrets to themselves for competitive advantage. And the governments, they seem to have their priorities in the latest new swept-wing bombers and stuff like that far more than, like, the amount of investment that goes into weapons development. If they took half of that and put it into energy development, they'd probably solve it. And the reason we're covering this today is, it's not just economics with this. Whether you think that the humans have contributed to global warming or not, and Standard Oil actually considered that what they were doing was going to contribute to changes in the climate, and they had that opinion in the early 70s. They just didn't tell anybody that they had that opinion. But it's pollution, I mean, all right, global climate change, all right, fine. But old-fashioned pollution, the good old-fashioned pollution, think of it that way. Your air is dirty. I lived next to 5 different oil refineries when I lived in Crockett, California, up the north end of the San Francisco Bay. And when I moved out, there was this layer of sludge on the top of the refrigerator. Of course, I hadn't cleaned it for 4 or 5 years, but it's almost impossible to get that sludge off there. It just coagulated from the oil refineries. So you want to move on to the Holy Grail?
Yeah, we're gonna move on to.
Okay, well, we got a YouTube video for the kids. It's 4 minutes long, but it gives a pretty much whole background of what I'm going to be talking about. A thing they call fusion. There's 2 types of nuclear energy. There's fission and there's fusion. Fission is what is being used currently in nuclear reactors.
Anywhere it mentions I'm not far from Crockett, California.
Oh,
So
hey,
you learn
way to
something
go,
new
dude.
every day.
I was in Crockett,
He mentions not able to get into restaurants anymore here. I imagine that's due to the vaccine mandate.
Oh, that's too bad. Well, Crockett's an interesting town. Sugar Town. C&H Sugar. At one time, almost everybody worked for C&H Sugar. And, it's a pretty wild and crazy town. I tell you what, they had them, women of the night, working and all that.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So we are gonna discuss the Holy Grail.
Yeah, and we're going to play YouTube videos, so that pretty much does the job for me because it pretty much explains everything. And the old school nuclear fission and the new school nuclear fusion. Now, kids, ladies and boys, girls, all the ships at sea, If they get this together, it's over, baby. I mean, this
Well,
stuff.
that's the problem. It would be so efficient. Why would a company provide it? Right. That's. But I think people need to be informed.
No, it's
the world
thing
needs
is,
to know about it.
It's going to take at least 10 years before it's commercially viable. It's going to take another 10 years before it's massively available. And it'll probably take 30 years before it's really prevalent. So all of these things in solar and fission, it's probably going to be like huge when it finally happens, but it's really, really, really complicated. And it's going to be really, really expensive for a while. So it's totally future, man. I mean, like, you might live long enough to see it, but like, I'm 70 years old. So, if I live to be 100, 110, 90, 100, if I'm so unlucky that I actually keep living for another 4 decades.
Well, you've got to take care of yourself, and you got to get into the metaverse.
Oh yeah, that's just what I need.
Hang out with Mark Zuckerberg, and stick around for another 30 to 40 years.
Hey, I'm really disappointed. I saw it. All right, we're going to digress just for a minute. I saw this thing, and it was somebody had a virtual wedding with emojis, and instead of their guests, and they said it was a friggin' disaster. It was like totally disappointing. All right, got the YouTube video.
Yeah,
YouTube.
I've got it loaded up. So we're gonna do the whole thing, or just
watch
it's 4
the whole
minutes.
thing. It's 4 minutes. We got 4 minutes. We can
All
spend.
right, let's
4
do
minutes.
it. So yeah, harnessing fusion power, harnessing the power of the sun. Let's do it.
This is it, kids. This is it. This is a dream come true.
Imagine
They've been
an
working
energy
on it for a
that's
long time.
clean, abundant,
They're getting
cheap,
close.
and available for everyone. It kind of sounds too good to be true. But scientists at a company called General Fusion are working in a lab outside Burnaby to harness the power of the sun and maybe make a profit while they're at it. It sounds like the beginning of a dystopian science fiction novel. Should we be concerned? Around the world, many countries already have nuclear power. It involves splitting atoms to generate energy. There aren't any CO2 emissions, so it's good in terms of climate change, but there is radioactive waste, and you have to mine uranium, and there's always a chance of a runaway chemical reaction. Think Chernobyl in 1986, the worst nuclear disaster in history. Even several decades later, the area remains largely uninhabited. Or in 2011, a tsunami in Japan caused the Fukushima Daiichi disaster, which forced the evacuation of more than 150,000 people. And that process is called fission. It involves splitting atoms. But the scientists at General Fusion are trying to unlock the secrets of a totally different nuclear process. It's called fusion. We already experience fusion every day when we wake up and experience the power of the sun, which nourishes plants and creates oxygen and food for animals. Its light and heat makes life on Earth possible. Now there's a race to figure out how to recreate the process of fusion right here on Earth. Dennis White, an MIT-based scientist, told me that 2 decades ago there were 1 or 2 companies working on this. But today, there are more than 24 companies around the world, all engaged in trying to figure out nuclear fusion. And the industry believes it's on the cusp of a radical breakthrough. White told me it's not a question of whether nuclear fusion is possible. It's a question of whether it can be done at a reasonable price. And big money is pouring into companies that are chasing this technology. General Fusion is backed by Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, Canadian oil producer Cenovus Energy, and others, and its partners include Microsoft. Plus there's funding from the US, Canadian, and other governments. The company's CEO Chris Mowry told me the beauty of fusion is there's no radioactive waste. Instead of uranium, it uses hydrogen, which can be extracted from water, and the only emission is helium. Here's how the company says its technology works.
We inject hydrogen plasma. It is compressed and heated to more than 100 million degrees Celsius, and fusion occurs. Hydrogen atoms fuse and release energy in the form of heat. The heat is transferred into the liquid metal. In our commercial power plants, the heat will be extracted from the metal and used to make steam. The steam will drive a turbine, producing electricity.
Maori insists it isn't complicated. He told me the way to think about this is a fusion version of a diesel engine. Except, of course, nuclear fusion involves smashing two atoms together to cause a fusion reaction. Proponents say small nuclear fusion plants could soon pop up in every region. They pitch it as a cheap form of energy with a tiny environmental footprint, no CO2 emissions, and no chance of a runaway chain reaction or nuclear disaster. In June, the United Kingdom government picked General Fusion to build a $400 million nuclear fusion test plant near Oxford. Now the company is looking to build a new headquarters in Burnaby as it prepares for growth, and perhaps one day an initial public offering, though that would likely be years away. Until then, keep an eye on this space, which is going to see a lot more attention and scrutiny.
Yeah, that is some future tech right there. I've been looking into fusion.
Yeah.
I've been checking it out.
It's pretty exciting, dude.
It's still in its infancy, but you see what the next 5 years brings. I think it's gonna.
I've been watching
next
this.
5 years could be instrumental in bringing it to the next level.
I've been watching this. Like I said, my dad used to work for Atomic Energy Commission, and he made me aware of it 50 years ago. I was aware of it in physics, but he made me aware of the development, and they've been working on it. And we have breaking news. This is out of physics.aps.org. And speak at the recent annual meeting of the APS Division of Plasma Physics, Debbie Callahan of the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California announced that researchers have, for the first time ever, triggered ignition, a fusion reaction that produces more energy than it receives and can thus burn on its own. Now, up until this time, they've been sinking energy in to get these scabillions of degrees of Celsius heat, and they've been getting some energy back. But this is the first time that more energy came back than was going in. The demonstration, which was performed at NNLN's National Ignition Facility, takes commercial fusion energy reactors a step closer to reality. Now, scientists have adopted practical definitions of ignition based on the outgoing energy from fusion being greater than the incoming energy for external heating sources. So they actually succeeded. Now, it was only for like a second or something, or a second and a half, but they were like totally blown away. China's working on it. Korea's working on it. Japan's working on it. The United States is working on it. I think Canada's working on it. And these people are in touch with each other. Like it's a common cause. Now, I got one last thing. This is out of time.com. Nuclear fusion viability. And what it says is new advances in 3D printing, which I find fascinating. The 3D printing thing that blows my mind. Necessary for manufacturing equipment with hollow cavities, supercomputing to calculate mass energy, and material sciences, super thin, super powerful magnetic tape have led to a number of essential breakthroughs in recent months for the development of fusion. So we got 3D printing, supercomputing, and material sciences all working together, and they're
you got
better.
You got quantum computers being built by Google, Chinese research companies, everyone all over the world is trying to figure out quantum computers. Google's got something called time crystals, which are it's basically perpetual motion within these time crystals, which violates the law of thermodynamics, but they've done it, and they're getting better at it. So it's stuff like that, like the whole quantum computing revolution is going to help advance.
It takes all of that.
It's going to help advance fusion power. It'll give it enough.
That's why 50 years ago, when my dad was talking about, we couldn't even conceive of this. We didn't have hardly anything to do with computers back then, and so now we got 3D printing. We didn't have that, and we've got all these ways to make super thin materials, and the money is starting to flow in. Also out of time.com, November 5th, fusion startup Helion Energy announced it had raised $500 million in its most recent fundraising round. So there's starting to be some dough. I mean, they're starting to smell the coffee here, and it's going to take a lot of money. But look, we went to the moon. It's human thing, human technology, and this is a big challenge. And I would say, big energy, the established companies, I wouldn't be surprised if they start going, okay, we're going to start getting in on this, like they're getting in on green energy. I think which is a good thing. They're moving away from their traditionals and starting to put money into alternatives. Fine. That's fine with me. So that's it. Thank Fusion. And Fusion. I had a band called Fusion once. And
Yeah.
yeah.
So, is it Bizarre News Time? Is that
Well, I
time
think
of the
it's
show, or?
Yeah, I think our timing is excellent. We're only an hour and 11 minutes into this. I thanks everybody. I hope you learned something today. And now you can go out. You go down to the pub or the bar, whatever you call it, and you talk to your friends. You go, so what do you think of Fusion? And your friends will go, are they playing today? No. It's not a sports team, dude. All right. It's Grey Cup.
Yeah.
It's Grey Cup. Grey Cup. Tim, it's Grey Cup Day. You know what that means?
No, I don't.
It's our Super Bowl. It's Canadian Super Bowl today.
Super Bowl of hockey? What do you mean Super Bowl?
No, football. We got football up here.
What are you
We got
talking
our
about?
own football. We got
Football,
our
soccer or football?
No, football. Canadian football. 3 downs, not 4, 3. And the field's wider, and it's longer, and you get 3 downs. And it's Canadian football. I think we got 8 teams, and they're all named the Rough Riders. For a while, we had 8 teams, and 2 of them were called the Rough Riders. Like, why? So now one's called the Red and Black. That's pretty good to me. But today, yes, in Hamilton, Ontario, the Grey Cup, and I don't even know who's playing. It shows you what kind of sports fan I am.
The Grey Cup? Canada.
The Grey Cup. And it's not because it's gray out this time of year. It's somebody named Gray. Jerry Gray or somebody. I'm not being a very good Canuck here. I'm going to get busted for not knowing all this stuff.
When was this posted? This is posted Toronto. Yeah, November 28th. All right, so let me load this up since you mentioned it.
Grey Cup?
Yeah, the Grey Cup in Canada. The football tournament you never heard of. At least for Yankees. The football tournament a Yankee has never heard of in the U.S.
Yeah.
The road to the Grey Cup is paved, and the 2021 Canadian Football League postseason is set to begin.
Good
This
excuse to get
semifinal
drunk.
will feature the Montreal Alouettes visiting Tim Hortons Field to take on the Hamilton Tiger Cats at 1 p.m. Eastern. The Saskatchewan Roughriders will host the Western semifinal and welcome the Calgary Stampeders to Mosaic Stadium at 4:30 p.m. Eastern.
That was the playoffs. Yeah, I don't know who. I think Hamilton and somebody's playing today. I don't know.
This is kind of old because it's mentioned December 5th, so most of these games have already. But the Super Bowl's today. The Grey Cup is today. Wow.
Yeah.
I might have to put some money on that. I might have to put a line down on Vegas. Maybe put $10,000 on somebody.
Yeah, I think whatever team.
On the Rough Riders, whoever the hell it is, you know what I mean? The Stampeders.
The Black and Whites, the Reds and Whites, the Alouettes, BC Lions, the Edmonton Eskimos. Eskimos? The Edmonton Eskimos?
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's being debated as to whether They should be called the Eskimos, but yeah, it's the Edmonton Eskimos.
So moving on to the Beijing Winter Olympics and
real
Canada.
sport.
Canada has the latest country to join the Winter Olympic boycott. We've got a YouTube video on that. United States has come out.
Diplomatic boycott.
The United States has already come out and stated they were diplomatically boycotting the Beijing Winter Olympics, so they're not going to be sending any diplomats. They will be sending athletes. The athletes will be competing, but no diplomats. Australia also has announced they will not be sending any diplomats.
And Boris Yeltsin, or whatever that goofy guy's name is, UK, the United Kingdom guy.
Boris Johnson, Boris Yeltsin. Boris Yeltsin's the old Soviet Union.
Oh yeah,
Boris the Spider out of the UK. Yeah, he's got the
I love his hair.
He's got the messed up hair, like he's been in a wind turbine for like a year.
I tell you, the guy looks like he stuck his fingers in an electric socket.
And I believe France, right? Isn't France announcing some serious boycotting of?
They're debating it. They're not.
Yeah.
They're thinking about it.
So this is a 3-minute video. We'll do a little bit of this, but nations
they
boycott.
They had their
Winter Olympics.
Listen, they had the French thing is Yankee. They had their hearts set on dim sum and some octopus.
Yeah.
So they don't.
Well, they got a soft spot for the dim sum, as I do.
Yeah.
But let's do a little bit of this video from the Wyong Network.
Now, the Winter Olympics has become the hotbed of political controversy. In the latest, Canada has joined Australia, Britain, the United States, and New Zealand in a diplomatic boycott of the Games to be held in Beijing next year. Canada, like the others, cited concerns over human rights as the reason for this diplomatic boycott.
There he is, skater boy.
For the past many months, we've been in conversation with partners and allies around the world on the issue of the Beijing Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Skateboard kid.
As a country, indeed,
how's my
as
hair?
many partners around the world, we are extremely concerned by the repeated human rights violations by the Chinese government.
Yeah, I know.
That is why we are announcing today that we will not be sending any diplomatic representation to the Beijing Olympic Paralympic Games this winter.
Now, this follows a similar announcement by the British Prime Minister Boris
UK,
Johnson.
Australia, New Zealand, and the US.
Will be visiting Beijing during the Winter Olympics next
year. There he is.
Well, we're not happy with China right now. Oh, there he is with the hair.
Yeah, he's all messed up. Looks like he just rolled out bed.
I know.
Of the Winter Olympics in Beijing. No ministers are expected to attend. Well, I think the House, and no officials, Mr. Speaker, but what I can tell the House is that I do not see that sporting boycotts are sensible. That remains the policy of the government.
Say what?
Now, the United States was the first to announce
they go crazy in the UK
Parliament.
They do the craziest stuff.
I know.
I watch it sometimes just to laugh.
Countries like Australia and the UK would soon.
Man.
Soon followed, and now Japan too is considering a diplomatic boycott. Japan
also considering a boycott.
Has said that he will consider the significance.
So I think there'll probably be another 5 to 10 countries. All the major countries are going to boycott it, at least at the diplomatic level, by the time the games start.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what China's going on. The CCP's going on. They're going to have some major response to this, but there's nothing they can do. What can they do?
I mean, there's that next YouTube video, but if you want to play that, but you don't have to. I mean, basically, China's saying, here's what they're saying.
The US and
it
China
doesn't matter. It has no impact whatsoever. And then they're saying, we're going to really get you. We're going to reprise against you. So, I mean, it doesn't matter. We don't care. And we're really going to make you pay for this.
Moved over into one of the world's biggest sporting
apart
events.
From two-sided
Beijing
mouth.
is threatening to retaliate after Washington announced a diplomatic boycott of the Winter Olympics. It's calling the move a plot that's doomed to fail. A live to our correspondents in Beijing and Washington in just a moment. But first, a look at where matters stand.
From the testing of competition venues to the training of athletes, preparations are in full swing as China gears up to host the Winter Olympics in February. But American officials will not be present to witness the thrills and spills. The U.S. has declared a diplomatic boycott of the Games to protest China's alleged human rights abuses. It comes just a few weeks after the country's leaders held a virtual meeting. But the White House says American athletes are still free to compete.
We will be behind them 100% as we cheer them on from home, but we will not be contributing to the fanfare of the Games. U.S. diplomatic or official representation would treat these Games as business as usual in the face of the PRC's egregious human rights abuses and atrocities in Xinjiang. And
so it's an important development because it's the first time they're doing this to China. And China's hosted how many Olympics in the past 10 years? I think this is like the fourth. At least the third.
They had the summer. They had a summer one recently. I know that.
They had a summer recently, but I think it's the third.
But I mean, really, I love it. These guys, and they're so good at it. I mean, on one hand, they're saying it doesn't matter. It's not going to affect us. It means nothing. And then, in the very next breath, they're saying there's going to be retaliations for doing this. We're really mad. You shouldn't have done this. So.
It's getting out there. There's big voices now. Big countries are speaking out against the human rights violations. So this is only going to snowball. It's only going to create a long-term.
Every time the story comes up,
political view that'll
every time
linger
the
for a long
story
time.
comes up. Yep. Every time the story comes up, they're going to have to mention why, and the why is because of the treatment of those people up in northern China.
The Uyghurs in the western section of China.
Yeah.
Over 1 million in detention camps.
Yeah.
All right, so bizarro news. I mean,
let's move on.
Yeah, that was current events. And now we do finally move to bizarro news, which really is the only news you should care about. It's the only news that matters.
We're tempted just to drop everything normal and just do bizarro news. I mean, it'd be so much more
we're definitely
fun.
looking at maybe doing that. Maybe going on TikTok full time and just doing bizarre news.
If we don't start getting a whole lot more lemons and ice creams and stuff like that, man, we're gonna just go bizarre.
We picked up another follow. We picked up Sal Rains. Just followed us here on D-Live, so we appreciate that. We appreciate that.
Way to go, baby. Or maybe.
But coming out of ph.news.yahoo.com, Space Tours billionaire plans to hand out cash while orbiting Earth. Now, this kind of freaked me out because I'm envisioning this guy going up,
throwing money out the window,
and just throwing money out into the stratosphere or something. I mean, it's going to float around, or is he going to just tie it to a balloon or a weight or something, and then it's just going to drop down to Earth? What's happening?
It's going to have to be something like Bitcoin or something neat like that. It's new age stuff.
He does have a world peace badge here.
He seems like he's really having a good
says
time.
Dear Moon on his jacket also. I don't know what the hell that means. But Japanese billionaire Yasuka Maiwata, who regularly gives out money on Twitter to attract followers. Wow. I should do that. Is planning to do the same from space. The 46-year-old fashion magnate blasted off from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan Wednesday on a Soyuz spacecraft, taking him to the International Space Station for a 12-day trip.
He's there.
I feel like a kid waiting for a school trip.
Yep.
So he is the online clothing retailer, the founder of Zozo Inc., Japan's first space tourist. Trip is a prelude to a planned SpaceX trip to the moon announced in 2018 by Mazawa and Space Exploration Technology Corp founder Elon Musk.
Yo, Muskie. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. And he flew up in a Russian vehicle. I had a video that I watched of it docking. It's like something out of the 2001 movie. It was really neat. And I saw another video of him getting into the capsule. Not very big, but he's having the time of his life. He's up there right now. He's circling around the globe. He's having a good old
So this is it. Explains the money transfer. My dream has finally come true, said Mazawa, who returns to Earth December 20th. Winners of the Billionaires Online Cash Handouts, which can be as much as 1 million yen or $8,800 usually receive them via bank transfers, this time instead of a lottery. Mazawa has promised that everyone who participates in the handout will win and receive some amount.
Well, where to get this? I want to enter. I want money.
You're gonna have to research that Canuck and get your hand in the pot.
I want the money
and get some of that yen. Get some of that yen.
I got a yen for some yen, man.
No doubt. And moving on from global news, we got some Canuck Bizarro.
All right.
As usual, because
for those folks that are good, happy followers of the Canuck and Yankee show, the last few weeks, we've been covering a devastating flood and storms that hit the coastal British Columbia. We're still screwed. Update, they are getting one of the highways back together again, hopefully early January, and that should alleviate the pressure on the one road that we have open right now. But during the first storm, this barge got swept up on English Bay, right downtown Vancouver, and it's still there, and the people love it. I mean, it's a new tourist attraction. They go down, they visit it, they talk to it, they bring it candy and flowers. I don't know if they do that. But yeah, you got a video.
Let's do the video of this barge. Just
nothing toxic to worry
here in
about.
Canada,
And that actually may be part of
like,
the problem here.
This barge
it's not leaking any fuel, and there's nothing hazardous on the inside.
Attraction.
And so there's really a lack of urgency to get it off the rocks. That lack of urgency now stretched into 3 weeks. This is the 4th week that it's been stuck there. The barge came ashore November 15th. A windstorm kicked up on the heels of the first atmospheric river, strong northwest wind, high tide. The barge grounded itself here on Sunset Beach, and it is way up on the rocks. The company, Century Marine, tried to float it a few weeks ago with no success, and they listed today as a day they would possibly try again. There was a high tide this morning, a 5-meter tide at 8 a.m. Nobody came, and the barge is still here. We asked the Port of Vancouver why the barge is still here. They told us it's not a navigational hazard, not their problem. Go talk to Transport Canada. We tried Transport Canada too. They said they're waiting for a viable plan from the company's owners to get it off the rocks before they can sign off on it. This is one of the issues that the port and the harbor face. There's a fractious jurisdictional struggle, and nobody seems to want to take charge of getting the barge off the beach. If you remember, in 2015, there was the MV Marathassa spilled bunker fuel in English Bay. It took 2 weeks to clean that up, and experts we've been speaking with say not much has been learned in the 6 years since. Now, to be fair, this is a big barge. It takes a lot of effort to get it off the beach, but there's a sailboat, a liveaboard, just down Sunset Beach. It's still here as well, so certainly something to be concerned about.
I love it.
Yeah, that's strange.
I know. I saw another video. No, I saw another video, and his woman, like, she says, "Oh, I just love this barge. Just I come down every day, and
I
so
saw like coffee cups. People like putting their coffee cups on the edges of the barge.
Yeah, I know.
And just I imagine people just hang out there and drink their morning coffee.
And they're trying to. There's a movement. They want to get Christmas lights and a Santa hat for it, and it's.
Wow, yeah, they should dress it up for the season.
Well, we're very adaptable up here. Nobody's freaking out about the barge. It's just not hurting anybody, and people think it's neat because it's something different. We like that kind of stuff.
Well, speaking of different,
now I came up with. I found this.
This is one of the weirder.
I found this.
Bizarros you're going to come across.
Botox. Beauty pageants.
Camels.
Now wait, these are subjects that we've heard before, right? Botox. Beauty pageants. Disqualifications. But there's a twist. It's camels. Not women. And all right.
This is from the National Post, the nationalpost.com. Saudi Arabian beauty pageant disqualifies camels cosmetically enhanced with Botox. There they are with those plush lips. Looking supremo right there. Cheaters at the King Abdulaziz Camel Festival were found to have injected filler to make contestants' heads and lips bigger. Kind of looks a little like Kim Kardashian here, this camel.
Yeah, actually it does,
right? The lips.
Yeah.
I see a resemblance, right, to Kim.
Yeah.
Camels were seen during a beauty contest as part of the annual King Abdulaziz Camel Festival in Ruma, some 160 kilometers east of Riyadh on January 19th.
We're going to have to cover that next year. We got to go.
Yeah, I definitely want to check that out.
Yeah. We'll fit right in.
It's what's being called the largest crackdown of cosmetically enhanced camels. Cheaters at the King Abdulaziz Camel Festival were found to have stretched the camel's lips and noses, used hormones and rubber bands to make their muscles appear larger, and injected Botox to make their heads and lips bigger, reports AP.
Man.
They also gave the camels fillers to relax their faces. There it is again. I'm putting up the picture of it.
There they are.
There they are.
Oh, man, they're probably so disappointed. They've been working all their lives for this moment. And then to be denied at the last moment, their glory of walking down the camel walkway.
I mean, these camels have just probably their lives have been decimated. Just absolutely soul-crushing for these camels. Soul-crushing.
I know. They're going to need therapy, dude.
For the rest of their lives, therapy.
I mean, these poor camels, think of them. Sympathy. They've been working all their lives to be the most beautiful camel dead until the last minute because their owner wanted them to be more beautiful than they were naturally. I mean, the owner probably had the best intentions. He wanted his camels to be really beautiful so that people could be fulfilled. And they got over hundreds of thousands of people go to this. It's like Woodstock, man. Camel stock.
I'm just checking out some of the comments.
Comments. Cool.
Those are two hideous camels. How did they ever qualify for this beauty contest? Wow, that's harsh. That's harsh.
What would you know about a beautiful camel? I mean,
the punchline is most guys just ride them into town. Know the joke? All right. I'm probably going to get banned if I keep reading these comments, but
I know.
Yeah, I'm going to leave the picture up though of these camels just for everybody's reference.
As long as nobody mentions their toes, we'll be okay. All right.
But that's a wrap. That's a wrap for the show. I was thinking about doing something on the tornadoes in the Midwest, but I didn't get to it. Maybe I'll have a stream tomorrow on that. But
it's pretty covered. It's pretty covered.
But absolutely crazy though. Tornadoes just at least 30 or more just erupting all through the Midwest.
36.
There was one that went for like 200 miles. And just laid waste.
Mayfield, Kansas, completely wiped out. So the Canuck and Yankee would like to express our best wishes to those folks down there and dealing with this overnight disaster. I mean, they've just
there's been hundreds of people have died in these tornadoes, and it's
Amazon warehouse got taken down. A candle factory got completely wiped out. It's huge. And it just the mega disasters. I mean, this hurricane thing we had here in BC a couple of weeks ago. Everything's just scaling up.
The weather is becoming more and more erratic. I mean, you're not supposed to get tornadoes in. Winter hasn't even started in the Midwest officially.
Especially
it started at the beginning of the month, of December. But you're not supposed to get tornadoes in winter. Not like this.
36 tornado cells over 5 different states in a 18-hour period. Pretty crazy. Well, anyway, next week we got a great show for you. It's everything you didn't want to know about Christmas. We are going to dig into the facts. We're going to find out what is going on with this Christmas thing. We're going to find out who exactly St. Nicholas is. I have contacts in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories. We're going to try to see. We suspect that once in a while Santa leaves the house, might go down to the local igloo and have some screech. We're not sure.
Well, I'll talk to Jacob. Jacob's in New York City. We'll have we'll try to get some kind of stream out of Manhattan.
Well, if he knows Jacob must have contacts to Santa.
At the Rockefeller Center, something.
Yeah, okay.
Because he streamed the Veterans Parade a few weeks ago, back in November.
Oh man, do they still have the skating rink at the?
Yeah. They still have all that.
I did that as a kid.
Fox News. I don't know if you heard, but Fox News.
Oh yeah.
Their Christmas tree got burned down by I think an Antifa, someone affiliated with Antifa, burned down the Fox News Christmas tree.
Yeah, according to Fox, it was definitely Antifa.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that they said that Joe Biden actually was the one that did it.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's breaking news.
JMFS in the chat says, I'm still thinking about those beans.
Oh, yeah, baby.
You know, it's all about the beans.
It's all about the beans. We got to get out of here. We've been on the 1 hour.
Yeah, we've been going on and on for more than an hour and a half. We're gonna get shut down if we keep going. So I'd like to thank everybody for hanging out. JMFS. We got a new follower, Sal Rains. Thank you for the follow. We got Any Word.
We got Campbell's.
And great show. I learned a lot. We're going to rebroadcast tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, so check it out. You know of anybody interested in everything we went over, all this energy tech? Definitely send them a link. Send them a link to the show notes. I'll post them again. Our DLive channel. But the best way, of course, is the show notes. If you know of anybody interested in the rebroadcast, I'm posting the show notes right here in the chat. Send them the link. Send them a link to the show notes. We got the link to the DLive stream, Trovo stream, Twitch stream. And have them check out the show. Help us get our shows, our live streams out there. And it's a wrap. We'll see everybody on the next stream. Take care. And
thanks, JMFS. Thank you, all the guys dropping in.
Enjoy the holidays and be safe.
See you next week with the big Christmas shoe.
Indeed. Take care.
You shake my tree. I love my woman. She making love to me. my shoes. I haven't even kissed them walking blues. I woke up this morning looking for my shoes.